everyone. Welcome. So great to meet you today. Wish we were in a room together, but we're going to do our best here in Zoom land. We have an amazing group of women, and it's great to meet you. You can definitely put questions and comments in the chat, and we are hoping to get to them towards the end. So first, I'm going to quickly introduce this beautiful group, and then they're going to do a deeper intro. So we're patching in from around the world. I am a longtime New Yorker, but I am in Miami today. I'm an executive fellow and entrepreneur in residence for Harvard Business School and the Harvard Innovation Lab, and a longtime serial entrepreneur. And I love Web3 and the NFT space. Now, very quickly, I'm just going to go round robin and say that Ada, who went to school in Puerto Rico, New Yorker as well, now in Paris, switching from banking to fashion. She will tell you more about that. Fernanda is from Argentina, but is now in Mexico City, creating beautiful art and NFT collections. So live from Mexico City and Paris. And of course, we need South Carolina in the mix. So we have Emily here, who went to school in Charleston and in New York. Pretty sure she's American. Yes. And we've got a very global group here today. And so Emily's here from South Carolina and also doing amazing art with True Stars NFT. So I'm going to go first to Ada, who's going to tell us a little more about where she's from. I think it's important you learn kind of how do we get to this place today. We're going to talk about projects and activities after that. But first of all, let's start with Ada. Where are you from?
Hello, everybody. So nice to be here again at the summit, virtual summit. I am originally from Puerto Rico. I am currently living in Paris, but I landed here via New York. Actually, it's very interesting how everybody just lands here from New York. I used to be in finance for about 15 years. I was in banking, in investments and treasury and risk management. And pretty much all my career was financial crisis, starting with 9/11 and then ending a few years after the financial crisis of 2008. But I've always been creative. I used to be a dancer. I did theater. I did modeling back home and all of those creative, the beaux-arts, how they call them here. And I always had that in me. I really just needed to express myself, needed to create and do something different. And I was ready to get out of the suits and the meetings and corporate America. And I wanted to do something different. So when I moved to Paris, because I found love in Paris, cliche, I decided to just submerge myself into learning everything I could from the capital of fashion, working in several fashion houses like Kenzo and Eero, learning all the trade, all the wholesale, how does buyer from different cultures actually make their buying decisions, what are the strategies, how are things are actually made here, like made in Paris, made in France. It's like people like really give value to all of those things. So at some point I said, I'm ready to kind of like do something on my own. So there's this little and big competition in New York City called Independent Handbag Designer Awards. And I said, okay, let's just submit some sketches. And first year I didn't get selected. Second year I didn't get selected. The third year I get selected as a finalist for the Handbag Awards. Handbag Awards, like, Nine West, Rebecca Minkos are some of the sponsors, Amy Kestenberg, some of the winners, Brandon Shelman. So there's like lots of great stories that come out of that, of Independent Handbag Designer Awards. And that's kind of like, it opened all the doors for me to actually really create and launch my collection. Then I, went to another award in Italy, and we got a prize from that. And basically it's interesting just because my background is in finance. I have an MBA from Duke University, but that really didn't, like, nobody cared in fashion about that. So I needed to somehow find reputation, validation, that I could, be creative, that I could do, good design. So the awards were kind of like that strategy for me, and it paid off. And it really has helped me just get my name out there. And in the pandemic, I decided, okay, we are ready to actually build more than one bag. Like we had like 2 or 3 bags, taking photos of them everywhere, but we needed to actually have a production. And during the pandemic, I decided, well, we have to keep the story in Paris because we're here, we're stuck, so it's gonna be made in Paris, and that's how it all started. And I did with one design. It ended up being like 13 models in between accessories and handbags, and then we did that phenomenal year. We did a big production, and everything was sold between America mostly. And the US and Puerto Rico. And at some point around Christmas of last year, I've already been kind of in Clubhouse, listening to what was happening, how are creatives like getting their designs out there, how do creators make money and get out there. So in between Clubhouse, I was just listening to a few people that then I ended up following them in Twitter. And that's kind of like how the transition goes. And when I learned about NFTs and the blockchain, I said to myself, I was left behind, like many women in crypto, but I'm not going to be left behind for NFTs. And finally, it just made sense to me. When I learned for the first time about Bitcoin, I was leaving finance. So the last thing that I really wanted to hear is anything about finance. So I never paid attention. Now it makes sense because it has a little bit of my finance, a little bit of the design, a little bit of the creativity. So I started to invest in women-led communities because I wanted to find more women, more community that had, the same interest. I wanted to be in fashion. I wanted to, learn about women empowerment and how, get your stuff out there. And that's how I landed into amazing communities in NFTs. And that's, I ended up meeting Talia from Eyes of Fashion. And that's how I landed in her project as the chief fashion officer.
Amazing, Ada. And we're going to hold there because you're going to hear more about Eyes of Fashion once we hear from everyone. But what a beautiful evolution and story. And I've spent some time in Paris and have French family, so I can just envision walking by Kenzo and down the streets of fashion. So amazing. Let's go to South Carolina and Emily.
Hey, everybody. So a little bit about me. I got into crypto back in 2020 during the pandemic, right when that hit. I was living in New York City where I had done my MFA, and then I was working in a art gallery there. And as we all know, a lot of people left New York City when that happened. So that's when I relocated to South Carolina. Started just buying a little bit of crypto, like Ethereum, some Chainlink, and learning about it, just to kind of like keep some money somewhere where I wouldn't touch it. And over the next 6 months, the market just started going up and up and up. And I educated myself on all the decentralized finance, the different startups that were happening, the different coins out there. And I just got really like sucked into that rabbit hole. And from there, I got into NFTs, made my first sale on a whim, like a weekend of minting crypto kitties. And I sold one for 4 Ethereum that I paid very little to do. And from there, I started realizing like, okay, I really need to learn more about NFTs. I started getting into the communities on Twitter, started like buying and minting, and I did really, really well for the next year and a half. And then, as we know, the market tanked. And meanwhile, I was posting a lot of my insights and a lot of the things that I was doing on LinkedIn and other social media. And I gained like quite a following, met Fernanda as well. And I'm really passionate about empowering creatives and designers and others to get started in the space, because I've learned all these things. And so True Stars is really about helping people to be their true selves in Web3, find their creative passions and how to like build their brands. So I think I'm sort of pivoting into more of like actually I've been doing this the whole time, but I think it's going to be more of like an educational NFT project for artists, designers, creatives. And so that's where I am now. The market's been quite up and down, but it's all just part of it. So
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. And we'll go back to True Stars in a minute, as well as some other side stories that we have as well. So Fernanda, we're going west to Mexico City.
Yes, hi, how are you? Thank you for having me here. I'm very excited because it's my second years at this event. And yes, I'm from Argentina and I moved to Mexico like 5 years ago because I used to work in the film industry in Argentina, actually in the art area. So my life is always related with art. I studied graphic design, animation, cartoons, everything in Argentina. And I moved here to Mexico looking for new opportunities. So I was living 3 years in the beach area, Playa del Carmen, Cancun. And when I moved to Mexico City, I discovered NFTs and I got obsessed and I decided to launch a collection because I never monetized my artwork. I always paint since I was a child, but I never made money with it. So I saw a big opportunity for me. So I decided to create a collection, Serious and Cool People. It took me like 5 months, 6 months to really understand the Web3, the NFT, how the NFT works. And I decided to make it on paper because I know how to create like art on paper. I had no iPad at that time. So I did 111 characters on paper. Then I digitized them and then I cleaned them on Photoshop. So that took me a lot of time. But I think it worked because the people saw value on that because it was a handcraft project. So yeah, after that, actually I launched my collection a year ago on this date. So in this week. On this week, a year ago, I was minting 111 characters on OpenSea on Polygon. It was very risky because at that time, Polygon, no one knows about Polygon. Now it's pretty popular. But yeah, this is my story. Background, film, television, and then in Serious and Cool, I mix characters, I mix art, and I mix storytelling because every character have a story. They have a story. So I think that's from my background in film and television. So yeah, this is me, and I live in Mexico City.
Awesome. We're going to stay with you, Fernanda, because you're going into your project right now. By the way, January 18th, it's my dad's birthday. Shout out, Dad. Happy birthday. Your NFT collections anniversary. What a great week. The week of January 16th. Awesome. Fernanda, let's stay with you and tell us a little more about the experience of Serious and Cool NFTs and kind of what you've really learned from it.
Well, I learned a lot. Last year when I launched, I had no followers, no community, nothing. And this was my first event in English. For me, it was very, very hard because of course I speak Spanish. And Emily made a post about my artwork on LinkedIn. So she introduced me to the LinkedIn community. And I was impressed because the LinkedIn community is very, very supportive. So within a month, I sold out the collection and the world changed for me. My life changed. So after that, the people start asking me for commissioned NFT. So I opened a new collection. So I have 2 collections. I have real people into that collection. So I learned a lot about how to build community, how to make new contact, how to collaborate with other community as well. Because last year I made a big, huge collaboration with Pizzo. Pizzo is the biggest exchange from Mexico. Actually, it's a unicorn. And they called me to make a collaboration with them. I give talks on Binance in Spanish in Argentina. So my life has changed. Of course, it's not easy because, the market is all the time going down, going up. So it was very hard for me. But I know that I want to stay here. So I think it's very important to keep on building, even in the bear market, because when you are taking this for the long term, it doesn't matter how the market goes. What matters is your brand. You need to keep on being active because the people is gonna remember you when you are building on the bear market. So this is what I'm doing right now. Of course, last year I had another maybe idea for my second collection. Of course, I thought on launching 6,000 or 10,000 PFP. that idea is not working anymore. I'm not thinking about that. Now I'm thinking more about on doing something more sustainable, more friendly, more respectful with the community, because I learned a lot about big projects going down, going to zero, and I don't think that's sustainable in the long term. So I'm working on that idea right now. I'm working, of course, on the second season for Serious and Good. I have no idea when I'm gonna launch it because I want to do something pretty sustainable and for the long term. So yeah, this is me right now.
Fernanda, how did you decide? You said you drew 111 images on paper. How did you kind of decide the process you were going to take with your collection?
I'm sorry, say it again. I didn't hear you, Mona.
You said you drew 111 characters on paper, but
Yeah.
how did you make the decision of how to approach the creation of your collection?
Well, yes, I did brainstorming. Of course, I had a big brainstorming, and I thought about doing planets, doing animals, doing, I don't know. But then I decided to make people because I love people and I love to paint people. And I'm not good at drawing smiles, to be honest. So I thought, okay, they're gonna be serious, but they need to be cool. Okay, serious and cool, that's it. And I decided to make a story because my background is in film or television. And I thought that could be cool that each character has their own personality. So it took me a long time to do the collection because I really do something that I really love. I didn't do it just to make money, you know. So I think the people see the value on that, on the time that I put in that collection. And to be honest, I love Serious and Cool. I think it's a amazing brand. All the people are saying, hey, I'm more serious, or I'm more cool than serious, or this is seriously cool. And when I start seeing that, the people using the name to, you know, express themselves, I was like, oh my goodness, this could be huge, you know? So I decided to keep on working on that and maybe more into a Web2 brand instead of only Web3. So I'm working on that right now. But yeah, my inspiration came because I was thinking what I love to paint the most, and I love to paint people. I love to create people. I used to work with actors when I used to work in the film industry. So yeah, this is how.
And how did you name it Serious and Cool? Who came up with the name?
Oh, just me, because I was thinking, okay, they're not gonna smile, they're gonna be serious, but they need to be cool, serious and cool. That's it. Perfect. Nailed it.
Nice. Thank you. We're going to go to Ada in Paris. Love the guitar in the background. It's looking very, very Parisian. Ada, take us deeper down this world of Eyes of Fashion.
So Eyes of Fashion was created by artist and fashion illustrator Talia Soret. And her story is really, really cool. She used to be a regular at the runways at Front Row in Milan, New York, Paris, and other cities. She's originally from Israel, and she also has Canadian background. She, for about 7 to 10 years, she used to come to all, sketch the runways, sketch the clothes, and sketch the celebrities. So if you go to her Instagram, you're going to see a lot of famous people in there. But then what happens? The pandemic came and there are no shows. So she decides, okay, I need to do something with my art. My art needs to go digital. My career, it has changed. We have to evolve with that. And she found I think on a Facebook group, she found a co-founder that had a background in technology and was also looking to, be in NFTs and create a project. So they create a project, I would say during the year 2021, and they launched in 2022. February is coming up, our anniversary, and they launched 8,888 pieces. And it's so true what Fernanda is saying. This was back then, you could actually launch collections like that, and to create a sustainable model for that, it's really difficult, and I'll go into that because you basically, it's an 8,000 collection, but it has 3,000 holders, 3,000, a community of 3,000, maybe more of people that know about the project, but not actually holders. But what is the important part of that is that you now have to kind of think about, okay, do we want to be a brand? Do we want to be just a community? Do we want to empower women? Do we digital products? Did you want to do fashion? And we kind of did all of those last year. And now it's the year of thinking, okay, so where do we actually need to be? What is our mission? I mean, is it really going to be launching artists and creators, like myself, like my background with fashion design, like I did a collaboration with them and we did these digital earrings that you see that you can use in Zoom and you can use in social media calls. Is it going to be that we're going to have our own merch, like what I'm wearing? So those questions are the ones that we're now kind of like asking ourselves, what is our manifesto? What do we really want to do? And how do we create value? We gave education last year, especially because we were onboarding a lot of new people into the project. Now it's either kind of asking ourselves, so should they go to maybe a project like True Starts to get more education about what's happening in the field and how to get on board? And then we just have to then focus on what we know best. Obviously runways are starting to go back, our fashion shows are open, so we're now going to have to kind of go back to integrate ourselves into our our main mission of just bridging art and technology. And that's kind of like how the questions that we're asking ourselves. Like holders last year received education, they received giveaway, they went to the Balmain show, they did an event in NFT NYC. We have been able to kind of create experiences for them, like how to make a mood board with Talia, or how is Talia doing her art on her iPad. We have done all of those things, and now we're just kind of transitioning a little bit into, okay, so where can we take the brand? Where can we take the art of ISO fashion? And also, how can we empower other creators and artists into being able to do digital products? Like we also were able to create digital wearables for L8, for Hug, for Fierce, for BFF. So we were able to just, for my brand. So that's something like, we're calling kind of like powered by ISO fashion. And that's definitely going to be our offerings into web services to just help other creators in this space, come out with their own products and things like that. But we also have to kind of figure out how are we going to be surfing into like the Web2 community? How are we going to ingrain that? And also because it's important to just bring other people, without having to think about wallets and, buying crypto. So we need to make this process seamless for them. So they'll be interested in the offering, or in like we're solving a problem for them and things like that. So we're trying to build more of the vision and the awareness, like doing collaborations with established brands like Bugatti. And we're going to be doing, and the art of ISO fashion is going to be in handbags and luggage that is going to be in retailers of North America. So that's just, we're trying to just kind of create that world where it just makes sense and it's actually, as Fernanda is saying, sustainable. So to diversify the revenue that the project is receiving, so we can then also build more experiences for our holders. Obviously, elevate the value of the art that is behind the NFT. Your pass to the community, to the club, to the fashion club. So these are things that it's so interesting in a bear market. We have been kind of been able to think about and discuss and see where that takes us.
Amazing, Ada. You're sitting in Paris. Do you feel like the fashion show is going to go back to normal? The runway shows will remain the same? Like, what's your outlook?
Yeah, it's interesting how New York Fashion Week and Paris Fashion Week, the distinctions. In New York, I was there in September and I saw lots of digital experiences and activations, like all over the city. In Paris, I couldn't find one. I could not find one. Obviously, Paris it's kind of like, when did Chanel actually did a website? It was about 4 years ago that you were able to buy a Chanel bag online. So this is, another mentality. They're slower to get into technology, although they have seen, how doing wearables for the gaming industry is actually going to impact their bottom line. So you have like players like Gucci and LVMH, having their own projects or doing their wearables into the gaming industry. But in terms of the shows per se, I feel that it's going to happen, but it's not going to be as fast as I saw it already in New York Fashion Week. So the shows are back. They actually, the only thing that kind of like open it up to the masses. It's just that because they stream it, and some of them they now show, you can see it online. If you're anywhere in the world, you can kind of see the show. And before you couldn't really see the show, just whatever the influencers and the press was covering about the show. Now you can see the whole show. So maybe that's different. I really like brands like Balmain that are really getting into the space in a meaningful way. And they actually, what they do is they open it up. They're very inclusive. They last time they wanted to open their digital community, so they did the show in a stadium. So we were like, let's get tickets. So we got tickets for holders, to go to the show, to be able to, enjoy the show. And I really like, how they're thinking about it, because it's just, you compare that to maybe Dior, and there's going to be 200 people assisting that show versus like 5,000 that went to the Balmain show. So it's just interesting how those things are going to be happening. Paris, I see that it could be the capital of NFTs and, blockchain for Europe. They're having, they're going to have Paris NFT in February, end of February, which coincides with the beginning of Paris Fashion Week. So it's going to be very interesting to see what comes out of there, and what are the digital activations that we're going to see on the show. Like last time, what we saw was that Balenciaga had a real piece that looked like it was pixelated. And I, for a moment, thought that it was a digital piece, but it was a real piece that looked pixelated. So that was kind of like it on the last one. So I'm really like looking forward to see what they're going to do this time, and how NFTs and the blockchain, and I know that nobody wants to call them NFTs anymore, but how they're influencing fashion, and how these big houses are, thinking about their strategies and what they want to offer their clients. So let's see. Stay tuned for that.
Amazing. Thank you for the Paris outlook. We'll come back to you for sure, because I know you have a fashion appointment at some point, so we have to catch you before.
Oh yeah, I have to go in 3 minutes. So maybe I'll yeah.
And just to highlight one thing Ada just said is we don't want to call them NFTs anymore. And what I'll just tell you, word on the street, is NFT is really more of a technical term, right? So people are starting to really say digital collectibles, digital art, digital fashion. And the reason is you don't talk in underlying technology with customers. So great example, I was at Yahoo back in the day. We weren't saying to people, do you want JavaScript with your email? We were talking about the value of email and why they might want an email address and be able to kind of like send an easy note to someone digitally. And so exactly. I think where the industry is going is really talking about the applications, the value. Yes, NFT, blockchain, underlying technology, but let's talk about kind of the value and the excitement that something brings first. So let's go to Emily in South Carolina to talk about TrueStars.
Yeah, thanks. So I guess about TrueStars, well, first off, being an entrepreneur in Web3 just adds like another layer of complications. You've got the market volatility. So we started working on TrueStars almost a year ago, and we were going to launch around like summer, and things just kept getting a little bit like it just wasn't the right time. And then all of a sudden, like, the market was just not good at all. And you can't really take an NFT project to market like that. It could really, not sell out. There's so many things that could happen. So we've had to go back to the drawing board a few times. And one of the things that I realized is that even though there's this bear market happening, there's still so many people out there who want to learn about Web3 and have questions about things. I get approached constantly by people in my DMs, and I still I meet with artists who hear me on podcasts and other YouTube videos. And so I started to realize like maybe TrueStars could be this community around educational opportunities for artists. And I really think that community is the future of art. And just like what Fernanda was talking about, she got onto LinkedIn and her collection sold out because there's a community there. So so that's sort of like the plan going forward. And I think anytime you're building in Web3, you have to be patient. And as Fernanda said, she's looking at building up her project in more of like a Web2 way. And I think a brand should really transcend, beyond Web2, Web3, whatever. So I have a lot of plans going forward. We haven't launched the first phase yet, but that's sort of like what I'm thinking about. And as I spoke about the other day, I got scammed and lost like all of my valuable NFTs. So that sort of launched me into this whole down this rabbit hole of crime investigation in the crypto world. So I've learned a lot about that. There's just so many things that I think when people come in, they need to know about, and having that experience is really vital. So going through a lot of things like that, it can, it's really just given me a lot of insight into things that I hope to share with people.
Awesome. And Emily, I want to go there in a second, but before we leave True Stars, because it's
Mhm.
so beautiful,
Well, thanks.
I totally appreciate that kind of there was timing and then you were, kind of waiting. What are you thinking now about I've seen the art, it's beautiful. What are you thinking now around, will you keep the art kind of to yourself? Will you actually go out and launch the art? How was the art created? What was kind of the tech foundation that you used?
Yeah, so I didn't create the art myself. Through my contacts, I found the artist Claire Gary, and she came on the team, and we went through like a whole process with her, which actually took quite a bit of time. And she's worked for AAA gaming companies. She's done artwork for movies, and I don't think she can disclose the names of them, but she's got a really like great experience with that side of things. And her art, I feel like, can go into so many different things like gaming. It could be a cartoon. I've written a story about True Stars, and we haven't shared that yet, but it's a really beautiful story, and I think that it can inspire people. So we're just kind of in a holding pattern because of the bear market. But the great thing is that it's given us time to really like think this through, and going forward, what's the best way. So.
And what chain did you build on, and what platform do you think you would launch on?
Yeah, so we are planning to launch on Ethereum. We haven't launched yet, as I said, because of the market. But I want to build up the community first through educational opportunities, and I want to do a podcast on all different things, share and give exposure to artists, interview them. I want to do, first of all, I want to do like a True Stars podcast. Then I want to do a True Stars for entrepreneurs. And then I want to do a True Crime Stars podcast where we talk to all the really interesting people in like the crime investigation in crypto, because there's so much there that I think people don't know about. And it's hard to find credible people, right? Especially when you've gone through something like that. So I think sharing knowledge is really, it's so important, and there's so much value in it. And that is really what brings communities together.
Amazing. So let's go there now, because you kind of named it True Crime Stars.
True Crime Stars, yeah.
The experience you had, which we wanted to make sure we share this cautionary tale that literally just happened in the last 10 days. And so Emily's going to talk more in depth about a security experience, and it's something that we as women, and all men out there as well, really need to be careful with in this kind of growing, new, nascent Web3 world. So, Emily, tell us more about exactly what happened.
Yeah, so the reality is that in Web3, there are a ton of scammers out there, and they're all finding new ways to dupe people and, send them links. And, if your guard comes down for 5 seconds, even though I knew all of these things, I knew I shouldn't keep my valuable assets all in one wallet. I should have had some in cold storage, but I was trying to also list and trade. And I was airdropped an NFT from a project that I had known, and I had been to their website before and connected my wallet safely. And it turns out that the link that was in this airdropped NFT was actually an imposter. And as soon as I connected my wallet, it had initiated a sale of my most expensive NFTs, and they basically were just gone from my wallet in a second. So when that happens, it's pretty much like, there's nothing anyone can do about it. But I didn't want to accept that. And I started putting out feelers. I posted on LinkedIn, and actually quite a few people came to me who are legitimate and have investigator experience. So we were able to trace the sale of the sale of the stolen NFTs to an exchange called Fixed Float. And from there, Fixed Float keeps their users' information confidential. So without law enforcement, we weren't going to be able to get that information. But I was lucky enough that I did all the right things. I filed a police report. I did the FBI IC3 form, and I was able to get in contact with a government agency that is helping me. So that's where we are currently. I spoke to an agent yesterday, and he's done this before, and he said if they can release the information to them, and there's anything in that scammer's wallet, that they can seize the money. So, it's kind of like a wait and see. If that money has moved from there, they'll be able to tell where it's gone. But, it's all very interesting. And the cool thing about it is that the blockchain is transparent, and you can see, the trail. So it really just depends. But I've learned a lot over the last week, and yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sorry, but I'm optimistic that you're on top of it, and that really you might create some real important change.
yeah.
You do in these situations, who do they hold accountable? Do they ever say, well, you clicked on the link, or do they really understand that it's truly a scam?
So I mean, yeah, it is my fault to an extent, obviously, but it doesn't mean that it's my fault that my stuff was stolen. These scammers are just finding ways to trick people, and they're getting smarter every day. And so law enforcement is, they're waking up to it. One of the things that I've learned is there aren't enough people in law enforcement who are knowledgeable about crypto. And so I think that's another thing, that just bringing awareness to this, and, creating educational opportunities is really vital. The other thing is, I was told, if the FBI and the federal government doesn't really care if your losses are under like $1 million, they don't look at it. And the truth is, they're starting to pay more attention to these smaller crimes, because actually the scammers have gotten smarter, and they realize like, oh, they can scam like 100 people for, less than $100,000, and the FBI isn't going to look at it. But like I said, they're starting to take it more seriously. And it's actually like it's all getting funneled into organized crime. And, so there are opportunities to catch people, to catch like real criminals doing this. And it's very interesting. So I think hopefully it turns out to be like a good thing that this happened, and, more people can learn about it. So
Thank you for sharing, for sure. Before we leave you and go back to Mexico City, back to the NFT world, the positive NFT world, what is a project that you follow, that you respect, that you think is interesting, that, others can learn from?
I really love Deadfellas. I don't know if you all have heard of Deadfellas, but yeah, it's just I love what the founders have done. Betty is a very prominent woman in the space. She's the founder. And I love how they've grown the IP, and they haven't used a lot of influencer, hype. And you can tell like they've really taken on through just building this strong organic community. And I respect that about them. I think that they have something that's really different, and it can move into a lot of different, partnerships with other brands. And so I think that's one to watch. I've always really loved Deadfellas, and yeah, Betty is a great woman to know in the space if you haven't ever encountered her.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great project to call out, especially because it's women led.
Yeah.
I met her at NFT NYC. She
Oh,
was
cool.
speaking recently in Paris. So she's Australian. She's definitely out in the world, which is wonderful. Do you think there's an ethos or a set of values, or is it about the art? Like, certainly we know it's about the community and Betty, but at the very beginning, what do you think it was about?
So I like that you point out the ethos and the values, because I think that they really did intentionally put a lot of thought into the inclusivity, and the messaging, and you see that in the artwork. The Deadfellows really could be, they transcend like gender, race, all these, you can't really tell. I feel like anybody can own a Deadfellows and identify with that. And that was one of the things that we were really inspired by with True Stars. I think the art in True Stars still sort of takes on a little bit more of like a feminine like feel to it, but we really wanted things to be like bright and like everybody can be a true star, like doesn't really matter. So yeah, I really respect that about Deadfellas.
Thank you for sharing. Now we're going to bounce back to Mexico City, and Fernanda, give us a project that you followed that you respect and love.
I really like a Crypto Citizen, because I don't know if you heard about that collection, but they are minting 1,000 NFT per city, and they came here. Oh, I'm sorry for the noise. I'm in a cafe and some girls are talking loud. So they are minting 1,000 NFT per city, and they are building community. They spend like a 3 month per city. They spend 3 months here in Mexico City, and they really build community because they do weekly event, and they gave everything for the community, food, drinks, everything for the community to get to know each other. And they did a massive and huge event, and they gave NFT for the community. So 300 NFTs are for the community, 300 NFT for the former holders, 300 NFT for sale. And I got 2 NFTs last year, and I already sold one, and I keep one because I want to belong to the community. And I think they are doing really great things. And I think they are sponsored, I don't know if the right word, by Arblock. So they are really empowering the community, the artists, because they are teaching to do generated art. They are giving workshops, they are educating the people in the school, children, their parents. They are doing a great job. So I'm bullish on Crypto Citizen.
Amazing. So we have a question out here about kind of the future. What does it really look like? I'm going to stay with Fernanda and then we'll go to Emily. And Ada sends her regards. She had to run to a fashion event. So we lost our fashionista for now, but she was so happy to be here. But Fernanda, what does this future look like in the NFT world?
Well, I think the technology is great. The technology is really, really good. The use cases can be better. For sure, the PFP collection 10,000, 8,000 without a real utility are not working anymore. Actually, I did a post about that last week on LinkedIn, and I put a Bored Ape on my style with a text saying I'm not the future of the NFT, because I think that's not the best use case. You know, I think the technology is great and we can do something better, more sustainable, more friendly, more easy to use, because now all the Web3 projects, to be honest, most of them, I don't understand what are they doing. And I'm into Web3. And I think it's really hard to understand. They're doing staking, the token. I don't know, it's so confusing. But I think the token gated use case that the technology gives you is very, very powerful. So I'm thinking to use that and create an online store, mixing Shopify, connecting Shopify with the NFT technology. I think we can do really cool things, but we need to be more clear on our message, because to onboard more people, because for the regular people, it's very hard to understand the Web3 and the NFT project. So yeah, this is my opinion.
When you say apes aren't the future, what do you think they represent today that doesn't go into the future?
The future is tomorrow, next year, the next 3 months. I mean, this is very new. And I think last year we saw big projects making millions of dollars, but they just disappear. Just we can't see them right now, you know. So I think that I mean with the future, something more with a long-term vision, something more to build something to give a real utility or to give something real to the community. Because, for example, let's say Bored Ape. I know it's not a good example because it's something totally different, but they are given the IP, and not everyone wants to build a brand using their Bored Ape, for example. That's in my opinion, is not a real utility. Maybe some of them are gonna take an advantage and are gonna, I don't know, build a restaurant or a plant clothes, whatever. But it's not for everyone. So I'm thinking every day, what's the best way to do something friendly, sustainable, and to give real value to the community? Even if you do a game, not everyone has the time to play a game. Not everyone wants to do it. I mean, I don't care if I play a game, I'm gonna earn token. I don't care about that, you know? So I think we can do some more like a mix between Web 2 and Web 3. And we can use the Web3, the NFT technology, but in a friendly way, like Reddit. They didn't say NFTs. They sold digital collectibles, and the people didn't know about NFTs. Some of them could connect the wallet, but if they don't have a wallet, they can storage the NFT on their email, and then they can claim it. So I think there are a lot of ways to do something more friendly and to onboard more Web2 people into Web3.
Thank you. Let's jump to Emily. Emily, what do you think?
I think there's definitely merits to what Fernanda just said. I think that, excuse me, there's definitely, we need to evolve a little bit in the use cases. I'm going to say, like, I have a very unpopular opinion about profile picture NFTs. And I think I'm actually the most bullish on profile pictures, because it's the identity, and like having an online identity and an online presence is something that I think people will really value and continue to value. And as we grow our users, I think someone said, I'm not entirely clear, but somewhere between like 3 and 4% of people in the entire world use the blockchain and crypto, and it's really small. but what's going to happen when that's like 10%? You know, people are going to want these avatars, and that's really bullish for Fernanda too, because she does serious and cool people, you know, like there's all these stories behind her, the artwork and each individual character. So I think we do need to evolve, but I think that also there is value in the identity and in all of these things. And I think Bored Apes will be historically valuable, as well as CryptoPunks. And so, I mean, all the derivatives and all the ones that come in and they want to like do something like that probably won't be. But gaming's not really my area, but I think there is definitely a lot of gaming that's going to occur in the future. But I think it's about community and about like identity, because I think that's such a powerful thing, and that's what brings communities together. So that's my thought about it. It kind of just to add one thing, like I think about like profile picture art is a lot like portraits, you know, from like the Renaissance, or you know, whenever portraits became a thing. And it's about showing, you know, portraits have always been about showing your identity and your status. So I think that's what carries over into Web3. And of course we have artists doing, you know, sort of like the equivalent of like, you know, landscape paintings, other artworks. But I think there's a distinction there, and it's something to think about. So
Thank you. A follow-up question came to that, which is, do you think NFTs in the future will be about kind of trading and financial speculation? I'm going to go to Fernanda first. Or what do you think is going to happen? And then we're in actually our last minutes. So we're going to do this question and then we're pretty much finished.
Okay, I don't think about trading. I more think about using the technology to do really cool stuff. I don't think trading, because trading, it depends on the value of the collection. It depends on the market. The market, you know, is always going down, going up. So I think it's very difficult. Of course, you can trade some blue chips collection and you can make money from it. But I don't think that's the future, because it's very, very hard to sustain a collection all the time up. It's very hard. And what I don't like, I think it's something that we can do better, is about the secondary market. All those collections who put the strategy on the secondary market, I think it's very hard to sustain. So I think more about to use the technology to do something more between Web 2 and Web 3, because the technology is great. And I think that's the best use case, in my opinion, not trading.
Thank you. Emily, and this is our last minute. Emily, what do you think?
yeah, well, so I cut my teeth in the space as a degen, you know, someone who buys into NFTs and speculates. So I mean, I think there's a real culture around that, and I think it will continue. I don't think the space will always be about that, and I think it does need to evolve, but I think it's still part of it, and you just have to realize that. And as Fernanda said, like the secondary markets and stuff, like people are, well, there's a lot of opinions about like royalties and things like that, and we may see that being affected, and that will also change how people speculate. So it's very uncertain, but it's interesting to talk about. And yeah, so that's just all I could say about it, I think.
Thank you so much. I'm so sad we're out of time. Ada in Paris, Emily in South Carolina, Fernanda in Mexico City, really smart, beautiful women in NFTs. We encourage everyone to join this movement, to learn more, to dive in, to reach out. There is so much opportunity. We are very early. I was at Web 1 at Yahoo back in the day. So the internet continues to evolve, and digital art and digital collectibles in this digital world will continue to evolve, and we invite you to be a part of it. So thank you, ladies, and
Thank you, Sarah.
so much for joining the conference.
Thank
and
you.
look forward to meeting you live outside of Zoom land. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.